Good afternoon. We are going to be learning about how to solve by completing the square. This should be a review of something that you learned in Algebra 2. If it isn't a review and it's brand new to you, then pay particular attention to the notes, and there are other videos online that you may actually watch as well. The worksheet kind of has notes integrated in it, but it's not enough space. So I'm going to be using the examples off the worksheet, but then you don't have to do the boxed ones as part of your assignment. Just do the other solo and homework problems. Those are the assigned ones. All right, so completing the square. Basically, when you complete the square, what you're trying to do is create a perfect square equals a number. You're trying to force that into a situation that doesn't already have it. Then you solve by what we call taking square roots, which we covered on our last notes section, which is where you take a square root of both sides, you end up splitting it into a positive x and a negative x, and then you finish solving. So the whole point of completing the square is to get it into this form so you can solve. It's also good for putting shapes like conics into vertex form, things like circles and parabolas and hyperbolas and ellipses. So it is good for other things as well. Okay, so here's our example. Example 1, x squared plus 2x minus 35 equals 0. All right, so first thing you want to do is get all the x's on the left and all the numbers on the right. So we need to move this 35 over to the right. So now we've got x squared plus 2x. I want you just to leave a space there, equals 35, leave a space. Now what we're going to do is add a number to both sides so that the left side becomes a perfect square. Now there's actually a formula for this. The formula is b divided by 2 quantity squared, or you can think of it as 1/2 times b quantity squared. It's the same thing. So our b value is what's attached to the x. So we're going to take a 2, divide it by 2, and square it, which is 1 squared, or a 1. So we're going to add 1 to the left, which means we must add 1 to the right. Now, if you did this correctly, this left side should factor into a perfect square. It does. It factors into x plus 1 times x plus 1, which is, of course, x plus 1 squared. That's what we wanted. Now, on the right side, 35 plus 1 is 36. We don't much care what we get on the right side. We're really looking for the perfect square on the left. Now we're ready to take square roots, which we already practiced. Square root the entire left, square root the entire right. 2x plus 1's, 1 comes out. I have a positive x plus 1 and a negative x plus 1. Square root of 36 is 6, so each of these are equal to 6, and we solve separately. So when you distribute the positive, nothing changes, so x plus 1 equals 6. Subtract 1, you get x equals 5. There's your first answer. Now on the right, you can distribute the negative, or here's a shortcut for you. Divide both sides by a negative 1. Then you have x plus 1 equals negative 6, and the negative is removed. Subtract 1 from both sides, you get x equals negative 7. So x is an element of the set 5 and negative 7. 2 answers. There it is in set notation. All right, so that's how you do a problem that has a 1 as the a value. So now we're going to do a problem that doesn't have a 1 as an a value. I'm going to switch pages because this process does take up a little space. And I'm going to use one of the 2 examples off the second page of your worksheet. So we're going to use, so this is example 2. We're going to do 2x squared minus x minus 10 equals 0. We're going to solve it using completing the square. So the first part is the same. You need to move the number over. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. That gives us 2x squared minus x, leave a space, equals 10, leave a space. Okay, so here's the problem. Our formula, which is b divided by 2 quantity squared, only works if you have a 1 in the A position. So we need to remove this 2. The way you do that is you're going to divide 2 out of all the terms in the parentheses. The 2 goes to the front. And now you have x squared minus x over 2, leave a space, equals 10, leave a space. All right, so now we're going to use our magic formula. Our b value is 1/2. This is where it might be good to use the alternate formula, which is 1/2 times b squared. Mentally, sometimes that's easier. So we're going to go 1/2 times our b value, which is negative 1/2. We're going to square it. Let's see, that's negative 1/4 squared is a positive 1/16. So I'm going to add 1/16. Now here's the tricky part. We didn't just add 1/16 to the left. We just added 1/16 times 2. So I need to figure out what that is so I know the right number to go here. So 2 times 1/16. 2 goes into 16 8 times. That's 1/8. So here I'm going to go plus 1/8 to keep the equation balanced. You only have to do this if you have a scalar on your left-hand side. Okay, now we're going to factor the left. Again, here's a little trick. If you write this part out, the number before you square it goes in the factorization. So I have a 2, and it's going to be negative 1/4. So it's x minus 1/4, x minus 1/4. Isn't that great? You don't have to factor the fraction on your own. It's right there in your calculation. And of course, that is 2 times x minus 1/4 squared. Now on the right side, we need to add 10 plus 1/8. So we're going to go 10 over 1 plus 1/8. Get a common denominator. So this needs to be multiplied by 8 over 8. That gives us 80 over 8 plus 1 over 8, which is 81 over 8. Okay, so here's another place where this deviates. Normally we'd square root both sides, but we've got this scalar. We got to get rid of it. So we're going to multiply it out. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2. Cancel out that 2. So x minus 1/4 squared equals 81 over 16. Now we're ready to square root both sides. This is where we split. We have a positive x minus 1/4 equals, and the square root of 81 is 9. Square root of 16 is 4. So it's going to be equal to 9/4. Isn't that a nice pretty number? And then we have a negative x minus 1/4 equals 9/4. We're going to solve those separately. Of course, here the positive doesn't change anything, so we're just going to add 1/4. So x equals 10/4, which reduces to 5/2. Now on this one, I'm going to use my trick with the negative 1. So that gives me x minus 1/4 equals negative 9/4. This one I'm going to add 1/4 over to the right. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8/4, which is negative 2. And once again, our answers do not necessarily look like each other. 5/2 and negative 2. All the problems on your homework assignment are going to have 2 answers to them. None of them have no solution answers, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, I'm going to do one last example of the kind that has the scalar, because that tends to be the one that we struggle the most with. So this is example 3. We're going to do 3x squared plus 14x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, step 1, move the number. Add the 5. So 3x squared plus 14x, leave a space, equals 5, leave a space. Now here's where, because we have a scalar here, we can't do a perfect square. So we need to divide that 3 out. So the 3 will go to the front. And then I've got x squared plus 14 thirds x, leave a space, equals 5, leave a space. All right, to complete the square, I'm going to use my formula. And since this is a fraction, I'm going to use the b times a half way of looking at it. So I have 14 thirds times a half, quantity squared. 2 goes into 14 7 times, so 7 thirds squared is 49 ninths. So add 49 ninths. Okay, now we're going to complete the square. And again, the number right before you square it, that's what goes in the factorization. So this is going to be x plus 7 thirds quantity squared equals 5. Now, this is where we need to be a little bit careful because we didn't just add 49 over 9. We added 3 times 49 over 9. So we need to figure out what that is. So 3 over 1 times 49 over 9. 3 goes into 9 3 times, so 49 thirds. So on the right, we're going to add 49 thirds to keep the left and the right balanced. Okay. We need to now simplify the right, and then we'll get rid of the 3. So the 3 for right now is going to stay put. I'm just going to recopy this. And I've got 5 over 1 plus 49 thirds. Get a common denominator, so multiply the 5 by 3 over 3. That gives me 15 thirds plus 49 thirds. So 49 plus 15, 64. Oh, I like that number. 64 thirds. So I've simplified the right. Now get rid of the scalar. So multiply both sides by a third. And you have x plus 7 thirds squared equals 64 ninths, which is a very nice number. We now have it set up for extracting or taking square roots. We're going to square root the left, square root the right. Split this into 2 halves. I have a positive x plus 7 thirds equals, and the square root of that is 8 thirds. And a negative x plus 7 thirds equals 8 thirds. All right, let's do the left one. When you distribute the positive, nothing changes, so I can just go ahead and subtract 7 thirds from both sides. I get x equals 1/3. On this side, multiply or divide both sides by a negative 1. I get x plus 7 thirds equals negative 8 thirds. Subtract 7 thirds over to the right. Negative 8 minus 7 is negative 15 thirds, which is a negative 5. So my answer, x is an element of the set containing 1/3 and negative 5. I hope that was a helpful review. Feel free to watch the video again if you don't think you quite got it. Otherwise, have a good afternoon.